books for you. And we look forward to seeing you here in the future. And for those of you who are regular ones, you know how special this place is. And so we're thrilled to have each and every one of you here today with us. We are an open, loving, and inclusive community that sees the Spirit within you, sees that divine essence within you, and we honor you for your unique expression of it. And so we're going to start this morning with some music like we usually do, and so we have our fabulous performer today, Cheryl Barlow.
Shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the joy in you. I feel your bliss, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the love in you. Feel your heart, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the truth in you. Feel your spark, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. Good morning, all. Namaste.
To stand up and shake a hand, give a hug if you're inclined to do that. Make a friend, meet an old friend, make a new friend. All right.
Hi. Oh, good. He's a hugger. Sarah, Sue, Catherine. Are you two?
How are you? I forgot my name tag.
And then being sick, of course.
Okay, so as we prepare for the meditative portion of our service here, our invocation, if you would take out your phones and if you are so inclined, check into Facebook. We are now live streaming on Facebook, so hello to all Facebook people out there. Last week we had 212 people watching it, some part of it, so that's fabulous. Yay! Fabulous. So, and then silence your cell phones if you would, so that we have an uninterrupted service. This morning our invocation is being brought to us by our practitioner Kelly Capstar, and Cheryl is going to sing us into it.
Just want to invite you to really listen to these words this morning and try and fully absorb them, like just claim them as your own. And if you find yourself struggling with that, ask yourself the question, if I did believe this is who I am, would I do anything different? What would I be like? And how would I shine? I am alive. I am alive. I am alive in this world. I am alive. I am alive. I am alive in this world. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright.
And so I simply breathe in, knowing that that one presence, that one power, that one life is right here, right now. That which creates and maintains and sustains all life, from the smallest, tiniest little thing crawling to the giant sequoias and the stars and moons in the sky. That every being, every single thing that has life is that manifestation of God in action. And so I simply align with and as that oneness, knowing that I am that. I am the light that shines. I am the peace and the perfection, the joy and the abundance. I am the power and I am the life. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each and every one of us, individually and collectively. And we come together in this time, in this moment, to simply be the light that we are, to shine the light that we are, to remember the very truth of our being. And in this, I simply just know that that one power works through me. And that me is the we. And the we is the me. And so I let that knowing be the embodiment of my every thought, my every action. Letting this light, this community shine forth as the power and presence it is. And so with deep gratitude, I simply just let it be, knowing it already is. And together we say, and so it is.
Like to join with me, we're going to sing We Are Light. We are alive, we are alive, we are alive in this world. We are alive, we are alive, we are alive in this world. And we shine, and we shine, and we shine so bright, and we shine, and we shine. shine, and we shine so bright. We are alive, we are alive, we are alive in this world. We are alive, we are alive, we are alive in this world. And we shine, and we shine, and we shine so bright. And we shine, and we shine, and we shine so bright. That was beautiful. Love to hear all your voices up here. The energy is just magnificent, and so much of who we are as community is about that energy, right? That ebb and flow, that give and take. And we're going to learn more about that today from Reverend Laura. And this is a little introduction to remind us that we're not alone, that we're in really good company. Many before us knew truth. They walked in the flow of a holy pursuit, the silent, invisible, creative force that acts through us. They call upon us to follow their lead into a consciousness where love sets free. Every thought, every action, each moment is perfect before you. Breathe it in. Know it in. Love it in. Trust it in. Each longing that you ever dreamed, every secret desire your soul has esteemed, each goodly ambition is life whispering we are one. What we need to do is to truly believe, choose what we experience, what we perceive. The natural law is expression of all we contribute. It out. Breathe it in. Breathe it out. Love it in. Love it out.
You know, I'm just in awe. I tell her what I'm going to talk about, and she either writes a song or finds a song that just absolutely perfectly fits it. Isn't that amazing? Let's give her another hand. We are so blessed by the musical inspiration that we have here at our center, and it's only expanding. So, as I said last week, we are going back to the basics. We're going back to the beginning of our textbook, The Science of Mind, and we're looking at our basic principles. Last week we talked about the thing itself. In other words, the thing itself, spirit, that divine presence, that universal essence, that intelligence, that creative force. And we talked about how it is personal to us and that it is also universal. This week we're going to look at actually how that thing works. How that thing works in our lives, how it manifests itself, how it shows up in our experience. So when I was talking last week, I remember I said that it doesn't really matter what we call it. It doesn't matter whether we call it the universal presence or we call it spirit, or like me, I call it God. It really doesn't matter what that is. It's whatever is personal to you. I like to say it's the God of my own understanding. And so it's that presence that shows up for me in the way that it does. And when the way it shows up can be personal and it can be universal. It can have those personal qualities that are deep, that are meaningful to me. And it has those universal qualities that are truths that are unshakable, things that will never change. We call these God qualities. God qualities are things like unconditional love, perfect peace, that divine creative intelligence, wisdom, clarity, perfection, wholeness, abundance, balance, beauty. All of these things we call God qualities. And generally when we write them, we put a capital letter on them because we're talking about that universal quality, not the personal quality. Like I can talk about the beauty of my home, which is different than I talk about the beauty of God manifesting here on earth. That is a more universal essence. And so when we're talking about this, we look at it how it shows up universally and how it shows up individually. And oftentimes we call this the macrocosm, the large picture, and the microcosm, the individual experience of it. What my individual experience would be the microcosm, where the universal qualities would be the macrocosm. And so we know that since God is all that is, then God is also what we are. And for a while I had trouble with that, because I thought that was a little bit presumptuous for me to be saying that everything that I am is God. Because I knew I had a lot of faults and flaws, and things that I didn't like about myself. And for me to be saying that I am the presence of the divine was just a little bit egotistical for me. Ernest Holmes, in the second chapter of The Science of Mind, which is also called The Way It Works, he writes, "There is a universal mind, spirit, intelligence, that is the origin of everything. It is first cause. It is God. This universal life and energy finds an outlet in and through all that is energized, and through everything that lives. So not only is everything about me the presence of the divine, but everything about you is the presence of the divine. Everything about the trees is the presence of the divine. Anything that is alive is the presence. It is containing the energy, the life force, the universal life, the intelligence, the creativity. All of that is contained within it." Now last week, remember I said that it was kind of like the ocean, that everything in the ocean is a part of God, but not that single drop of water or that single wave is that complete expression of the divine, but it is not the totality of the ocean. And so just like I am an individualized expression of God, I am not the totality of God, and the same is true for you. So when we're working with this idea of this microcosm and macrocosm, sometimes it gives us a sense of duality, like there's two separate things. But it's all the one. It's that individualized expression of it, and it is that universal expression of it. But that problem with duality is it also leads itself to thinking that there's something outside of God. And when we get to that idea of something outside of God, we often consider things like good and evil as being a part of it. But then, in essence, there is only that one. It's just our sense of separation from it that causes us to believe in things like good and evil. So as we're working with that, the way to overcome that is to really work on clarifying our image of God. I love the way Kelly did it in her invocation. For her, God was as small as the grains of sand on the beach and as large as the mighty sequoia. Now that's a great image to get, where you can see that it can be each of these individualized things, yet it's all that one. And so when we work with that, we work with developing what God is to us, making it personal to us. And so as we sit in meditation or contemplation of the Spirit, then we work with those ideas of what does it mean to me? For me, God is that creative force really works for me. because I love to get into creativity. And so when I think about God being creative, that really works for me. And so I build my energy around that creation. So when I see a sunset that is absolutely spectacular, I thank God, because I know that is the creative force of the divine that has brought that out. When I see a beautiful flower, then I'm thanking God, because I know that it is the creative force of life that has brought that rose into bloom to make it this beautiful thing that I see before me. And so when I think about different things in my experience, different things in my environment, I'm developing a sense of that being the presence of the divine also. You know, the love that you have for those wonderful pets we have that love us so unconditionally. I mean, they just love. I mean, they just love. It doesn't matter. I like to joke that my dog, the last dog I have, it didn't matter if I was gone 5 minutes or 5 days. I got the same reaction every single time I got home. And to me, that was just absolutely stupendous, knowing that when I walked in that door, I had this beautiful creature that was an expression of the divine that was going to give me unconditional love. So however God shows up for you, that's where we begin to develop that sense of the fullness and the allness of the divine. That's where we begin to really work on our faith. And when we get that faith and that true knowing of what spirit is, then we can actually use that feeling to help us change conditions in our lives. So in Science of Mind, we call this the creative process. And so on your seats this morning, you had a little white card that shows the creative process. You may have seen the symbol up here on the podium with the circle with the V in it. This is actually a metaphysical teaching chart, which has come to be known as the Science of Mind symbol. It's actually one of the approved symbols that can be put on a headstone in a cemetery, on a veteran cemetery now. So it is the symbol of what used to be called religious science, is now called Centers for Spiritual Living, and it is our Science of Mind creative process teaching symbol. So I've given you a little bit of an explanation there. So, as I said, God shows up in this macrocosm and this microcosm. God also has a third expression, and that is what we call the triune nature of the divine. So we have, just like the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost that we may have learned in some of the Christian religions, we have a triune nature of spirit. And so on the chart there, you'll see the first three words, the biggest words on there, are spirit at the top, soul in the middle, and body at the bottom. And so this is what we call the triune nature of spirit. Spirit shows up in all of those aspects. As I said, in the universal aspect, that macrocosm, it is spirit. In the individual expression, the microcosm, it is body. And then it has this other thing that runs right through the middle of it. It's sometimes called soul. In Science of Mind, we like to call it the law. So the law, if the law works right, the law is always impartial, right? Even in our daily experience with laws, they are designed to be impartial. You know, the justice with the balanced scales. So, in our aspect of it, we think of that as the part of the divine that knows exactly what to do and always does it without any kind of judgment. It is that part of us that when we think a thought and we put it into the law is going to do exactly what the law does. It is going to create, according to its principles, which are those principles of abundance and beauty and intelligence and clarity and wisdom and wholeness and perfection and all of those things that I was talking about, the God qualities. The law in the middle just does exactly what it does. Now the best way to understand this is what I've put on the left side of the chart. I'm right and left challenged. So, and that is an analogy that we use here in Science of Mind, which is called the seed, soil, plant analogy. Seed, soil, plant. So, the seed is the perfect idea. It is that thing that we put into consciousness. The soil just does exactly what the soil does. And then the plant is the effect that we get out of that. So let's look at an analogy. So if I want to go and I want to plant corn, I take my corn seed, which is my thought, and I put it into the soil. And the soil is going to do exactly what the soil always does. And then I'm going to get a corn plant growing out of that, right? So the soil is impartial, right? But there are things that I can do to either make that soil less effective or more effective. If my soil is full of rocks and weeds, my plant's going to have a hard time growing, right? If my soil is too dry, my plant is going to have a hard time growing. If my soil is too wet, my plant is going to have a hard time growing. The soil doesn't really care, but the effect that I'm going to get will be changed by how well I prepare my soil. And so in Science of Mind, we have tips and tricks and principles and practices that allow us to clean up our soil. They allow us to make that soil as enriched as it can possibly be. They allow us to get rid of all those weeds and those rocks that may be inhibiting us from having a really good harvest. And those are things like our spiritual mind treatment, our prayer, our affirmative prayer is what we call spiritual mind treatment. There are meditation. There are the things that we engage in with others, like sacred service, gratitude, forgiveness. I'm lost here. So those are different practices that we can use to help us clean up our soil. They help us get a better understanding of how Spirit is going to work through that soil to make that plant manifest. And so we want the richest and the best and the biggest plants we can possibly get, right? That's what we want out of life. And so to do that, we have to clean up our soil. And so this is a process here of going from the spirit, the soul, the body, or the seed, soil, plant. Can also be talked about as love, which is what Ernest Holmes, our founder, called spirit, was love. Law, which are those basic principles, and then effect. Now, Ernest says that I just lost the quote. I just have to. Ignorance, thank you. That was stupid. Ignorance of the law is ignorance of the law excuses no one from its effects. So ignorance of the law excuses no one from its effects, right? Ignorance of the law does not excuse us from the conditions that we're going to have. And so as we're looking at that law there, we have to remember that the law is going to work. And so the thoughts that I put into the law are going to manifest in my life. Now, does every single thought manifest? If I say, I'm in a really bad space one day and I say to myself, I don't know, something horrible, I wish I would just die. Is that going to manifest in my life? No, because it's a single random thought. It's not there's no preponderance of energy behind it. It is that one single thing. You know, if I'm so stupid or I'm criticizing myself, is that going to be my experience? Only if I think it over and over and over again. So there's this idea in quantum physics. Quantum physics is one of the things I studied in ministerial school. And I am by no means an expert because it's really big. But in quantum physics, we have what's called waves of possibility. And these waves of possibility exist. And they're just there. And as we put things into those waves of possibility, they reach a point at some point where they collapse. And they collapse into an experience or to an effect. And so when those waves collapse, then that would be the outcome. But if I'm putting that one random thought out there, it's not going to do anything. It's not enough. I think of it sometimes like clouds forming in the sky. You know, once a cloud gets so big and so heavy with rain, it has to come down. The rain has to let go. But that one single drop of something that is other than that isn't going to make a difference in that cloud. And so this whole idea of these waves of possibility collapsing into actuality, it's going to take that preponderance of thought. And so we do things like our affirmative prayer, or we write affirmations. And these affirmations are then about changing our thinking about things, right? So I can write an affirmation. If I want to increase my abundance, I can write an affirmation that will help me have a different experience of that. Now there's a trick with this too that you have to be aware of. I have to actually believe it. So I can write an affirmation that says, I have $1 million in my bank account. But there's not one thing in my body that is believing that right now. I see the figures and the facts that are on my check account statement, It's like, there's no way. I could say I have $1 million in my checking account every single day for a year. And it's not going to make one bit of difference in there because I don't have the belief within myself. You know, one of the greatest lines that was ever written comes from the Bible. It is done as you believe. It is done as you believe. And so the thing I have to do is begin to change my beliefs. Or in other words, I need to get a bigger as. I gotta let that as grow. I've got to work on my as. How am I believing? How am I believing? Oftentimes in my case, I'm trying to not grow my as, but that's okay. That's another different experience altogether. So I have to let that as go. I have to grow my belief system. And again, we use these spiritual practices that we have to help us grow our asses, to make them, to become that big experience of the divine, that big belief system that we have in there. And so as we work with that, we can do different practices. On the back of your card, I've given you something which has a typo in it, which I was just notified of this morning. I don't know how I made that mistake, but that's okay. So these are the 5 stages of our spiritual mind treatment. The first stage is recognition. And in recognition, that's where we're building our big God. We are trying to make a God that is so complete of our understanding that we can really feel it. That's where we're really working with that concept of that big God. How big can I make my God? The bigger I can make my God, the bigger my belief system becomes. The bigger my as can become. The second stage, which is wrongly labeled there, it is actually unification. U-N-I-F-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. You might want to correct that on there. Unification. In the stage of unification, everything that I know about God, I recognize that as being true about me. So that whole thing that I was talking about at the beginning, the individualization of spirit, is me. So how big is spirit? Therefore, how big am I? And so I work with understanding the concepts around the unity of one, this one life that is living its life as me. In the third stage of treatment, that's where we put in our affirmations. And you notice I've left it blank there for you. This is where you can write affirmations, statements of truth, for you to change a condition. Now remember, affirmations have 4 characteristics. They have to be positive, powerful, present tense, and personal. Positive, powerful, present tense, and personal. Sometimes I use passionate instead of powerful as a word because I like to get that passion going through there. I like to really feel that. And so in those statements, we are making statements of truth about whatever that condition is that we want to change. Then the next stage is Thanksgiving, because remember, we're always expressing gratitude for our experience. And then the last stage is simply an acknowledgement that it is done as I believe, therefore I don't have to do anything else about it. I can just let it be, and that's what we call the release. So it is done as we believe. And then we traditionally end our prayers with, and so it is. Which I've looked up the origin of that, and I'm not really sure, I can't find where that actually came from. They used it in Christian Science, so it might have come from there because Christian Science was founded before we were. But it is, okay, this is what I've said, so that's what it is. So it's just that simple affirmation of it being done, complete in the mind of God, and we just let it go. Now you can use this template for any kind of condition that you have in your life that you want to change. If you want to have more abundance, you can use it for that. If you want to work on your health, you can use it for that. It doesn't matter. What I would encourage you to do is to make the statements a little more personal for you. If you're reading that recognition, that's what I feel about God. That's one of the things that works for me when I'm thinking about the divine. But what works for you? Like I said, Kelly personalized hers. When you hear the treatment after the talk today, I will probably personalize it in a different way. So think about what's personal to you. What is that personal experience of the divine that you have? That's going to make that treatment more solid within you. And then if you know that about God, what are you knowing about yourself? Are you really believing that you are that divine expression of the one? Okay. Then, again, like I said, in the recognition, whatever it is, whatever the condition is that you're wanting to shift, you can just work on affirmations for that. And again, remember to state them using the word I. We never use will, because that's putting it out in the future. Okay? We don't say things like, I want, because all the universe hears is I want, and it lets you keep wanting and wanting and wanting and wanting. And so it's like, I have, instead of I want. Or I am experiencing this. So we work with ideas along that. Okay? Keep them in the present tense, keep them personal. Make them I statements. Find the words that bring power, a feeling of power for you. Find those words that really, ooh, that works. I like that word. What was the fourth one? Powerful, present tense, personal, powerful. Present tense is, yeah, that's no will. Positive, right. So we're putting in there, we're not putting any words in there that negate it in any way. So you're never going to use no, no, or not, or anything like that. We don't want to negate anything in there. We want to keep it in a positive statement. And so that's one of the tools that you can use. You can use the meditation that we do. If you missed the meditation experience here in the morning, there are thousands and thousands of meditations on YouTube. Going online, you can find all kinds of things to do. We have a meditation service here on Wednesday night where I'm working through different meditation practices to help you have a different experience, to build that faith, to build that knowing within yourself, to connect with that spirit within you. So find a way to begin to engage in meditation. I often hear about meditation that people say, I can't meditate. My mind just goes. It just goes quiet. It just goes all the time. Well, the truth is our minds are designed to go. That's the way they're built. The Buddhists call it the monkey mind. There's a quote from Buddha that says, our minds are like drunken monkeys jumping from one branch to another. Anybody ever feel that before? You sit down to be quiet for a moment and the shopping list starts going through your head, or all the things that I need to do, or that argument I had last night, or what I wish I'd said instead, or all of that stuff. That's the way our minds are designed. True meditation occurs in the gaps between the thoughts. That's what we call meditation. So what we begin to do as we practice meditation is to expand the gaps, to make those gaps grow a little bit larger, a little bit larger, and a little bit larger. I study the work of Joel Goldsmith, and he says that he would spend 8-10 hours a day sitting in meditation, but he only ever meditated for 5 to 10 seconds at a time. So he had to sit there to get himself quiet, to feel that presence within him, and then expand the gaps between the thoughts. And so that's what we do when we're working with meditation. Next week, Reverend Colleen is going to be here, and we're going to present a workshop after service with another tool. It's a great tool it's called contemplative meditation. And it's a great tool for expanding your concept of God, as well as learning a different meditation technique. And so it's a free workshop open to everyone. It's only an hour and a half. I think we're doing 1 to 2:30 after service next week. So I encourage you to come back for that. Have time to go get something to eat real quick, and then come on back for the workshop next Sunday. So these are different tools that you can use to help you expand your experience of the divine. Forgot I had that on the board up here. Okay, one other thing on there. So if you look at that V, it's actually not the letter V. It's just supposed to be 2 lines shaped that way. Except the one line over here keeps on going. Okay? It kind of curves at the tip. I couldn't do it too well on this thing when I was creating it. So involution is that process where spirit is coming into form. Spirit is going through the law, through the soil, into an effect in our experience. And so we call that involution, spirit moving into form. And then evolution is form returning back to spirit, and it is a continuous process. That's why we put that little curve up there. That signify that it is constantly going on. There's no end to it. There's no end to evolution. And so that's why we have that, the shape there, the V in there. Okay, so I already talked about that one. All right, so this is the final quote I'd like to leave you with. As high as we shall make our mark in mind and spirit, so high shall be its outward manifestation in our material world. And so our trick here is to really begin to get clear about what spirit is for us. what that personal experience of spirit is in our lives. Really get clear with that. And then it's going to express itself in outward, in our manifestation. Whatever that condition is that we're working with will shift. The more we grow our idea of God, the more the experience is going to shift in our lives. If we understand that God is infinite, absolutely infinite, that there is an infinite abundance in the universe, then how can we ever be limited by anything? It is done unto you as you believe. So let your as's get bigger. All right, okay, so let's go into prayer. On that note, I didn't give you enough of a cue, did I? So just taking a nice deep breath with me. And allow that breath to just simply center you in this moment. Into the peace that is. To the power and the presence that resides within each one of us. That fills this space. That is this very activity in which we are engaged. For truly I know that there is only one. One divine creative source of all. In the beginning was God and nothing but God. Nothing but God. And God began to create. And since it was nothing but God, God created from itself. It brought forth everything into existence through its own energy, through its own divine essence. God made manifest everything. Everything that is, everything that has ever been, everything that is yet to be. It is all that one. And because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it. I know that all that God is resides within me. Right here and right now, all that I am is that divine essence, that power and presence, that one life. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each person here, that we are all that unique manifestation of the one, endowed with all that God is, with that perfection, that wholeness, that infinite abundance, that divine clarity and wisdom, that creative energy. That is the truth of who each and every one of us is, right here and right now. And so I speak my word, knowing this truth for each one of us, that there is within us that seed of perfection. It is nestled deep within our heart. And we allow it to manifest beautifully and easily and effortlessly as we increase our belief, as we allow that feeling of the one to enlarge within our hearts. The one manifests itself beautifully and easily and effortlessly through all of our affairs. There is a rich abundance to this universe, and it is ours right here and right now. There is divine perfection and wholeness right now within each one of us. No thought of disease, no lack or limitation resides within each one of us right now. Simply that seed of perfection and wholeness and completeness. For that is the truth of who we are. I am so grateful to know this. I'm so grateful to feel this power and presence. And I am so grateful to see it manifesting itself in the life of this community right here and right now. And so I simply release this word into the law, into the creative mind that always says yes, that knows no limitation, that just simply allows everything to be. I give thanks for this, and I let it go. And so it is. Amen.
I welcome each day. I trust the divine. Choose which path to take, which thoughts to align, to find peace so sweet, the truth of my soul. It's all that I need. I have faith and know. To find peace so sweet, the truth of my soul. It's all that I need. I have faith and know. I lead with my heart. Breathe and expand and make room for God to better my plans, the good I desire, away to the flow, each moment a gift. I have faith and know the good I desire, away to the flow, each moment a gift. I have faith and know.
All right. As I said, God knows no limitation. There is nothing but abundance and flow in the one. So let's just keep that in mind as we enter into this conscious act of sharing our contributions. So you have an envelope with a place for your name on there. If you want to have a chance to take this off of your taxes, we need to have your name on there so that we can record that for you. We'll have letters ready for 2018's contributions in a couple of weeks, maybe next week. So as you prepare your offering, I invite you to hold it near your heart and give it a silent blessing. And so would you join with me? This gift I give goes forth from me. Does amazing and miraculous things. Enhancing the experience of this community. And returns to me in kind. Pressed down and overflowing.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth. And who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth. And who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth. And who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world.
And so we just offer a blessing for all of these gifts, for everything that has been just so generously given to us and brought forth to our community to further this mission, to further the values, to further these principles and practices. I know that we're truly blessed by these gifts, by this consciousness, and I just say thanks, and I let it be, and so it is. And so it is. Okay, so we just have a few announcements here. Today, right after service, we'll give you about, we'll probably have about 20 minutes to get some coffee, some snacks, things like that. And then we're going to have a general information meeting. We're going to celebrate. It's a celebration of what we've accomplished so far, what was accomplished in last year, and where we're looking forward to going into the next year. This is in preparation for our annual membership meeting, which will be in March. I already mentioned this. We're calling the workshop Going Deeper Together. And it's a workshop on the practice of contemplative meditation. Tomorrow, next Sunday from 1 to 2:30. Reverend Colleen will be here with me, and it's free for everyone in the community. Last time we did this, we had 45 people, so we're looking forward to a great crowd back here again. So hope you join us for that. We have the Science of Mind discussion group with Chris and Gwen on Mondays from 4 to 5:30. They are loosely calling it, what did she say? I got to talk about the Science of Mind principles that we discussed on Sunday, so join them for that if you're interested. Our Book of the Month book study is on Wednesdays. We're studying the Science of Mind textbook right now, working on chapters 2, which is what we talked about today, and chapter 3 Our book of the month for next month is the book by the Dalai Lama called Beyond Religions, Ethics for a New World. If you're interested in that, I created some bookmarks, which I think they're over there. I can't see them. Over there, yeah, they're there. Over there on the table. It has the reading, way I've broken down the reading for February. This is the book we're going to be using in February, so if you're interested in getting that, you can order it off Amazon. I think it's also available at Barnes & Noble right now because it's relatively new. Also is a list of all of the books of the month that we're going to be working with. So that's for Wednesdays, 2:30 to 4. On Wednesday nights, we have Meditation is More and More, which is what I was talking about, our Wednesday night service, where we're just experiencing, right now we're experiencing different meditation techniques that may morph into other practices as we move along. I'm just kind of going with the flow here, seeing what shows up. We have one more class starting in January, the very last of January. It's Visioning, which is one of our spiritual practices. It really helps you develop that connection of listening to Spirit and allowing Spirit to move through into your experience. It is a certificated class, so you have to have taken Foundations or Beyond Limits. Someone asked when the next Foundations class is going to be, and it's going to start in February, so we'll have that going too. If you're interested in the women's retreat, come see me. We have a couple more weeks to sign up. Reverend Z and Reverend Melissa are going to be here at the end of February doing the service and singing and all kinds of fun stuff, which we'll talk about in the meeting after service. So anyway, if you're interested in that, there's an information sheet back there, and also you can come talk to me about it. And I've changed my office hours a little bit. Since I'm here on Tuesday nights anyway, I thought I might as well work on that. So I'm going to be here from 1 to 5 on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. There is a sign-up sheet on the table if you'd like to come in and talk to me about anything. If you have something going on in your life you want to talk about, if you'd like to know more about these principles that we've discussed here, if you want to talk about how you think the church is running right now, come on in and talk to me. So just sign up on the sign-up sheet on the table over there. And so after service, make sure you check out our bookstore over here. Those of you that are new, you have a little card in there, get a free gift out of the bookstore. After service, Kelly, our invoking practitioner, will be available for personal prayer. If you have anything going on in your life, you can have a personal spiritual mind treatment given to you right then. So stop and see her. And then, of course, we have coffee and goodies. And, like I said, our meeting is at 12:15, so I hope you stay for that. Everybody's invited to that, if you're a member or if you're just interested in what's happening here. You're welcome to come. Okay. All right. Our closing affirmation. All right. Would you stand? Always good to get up. All right. And so would you just simply repeat after me? Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It is this thing called life.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my heart.
Life is in my heart.
Life is in my body.
Life is in my body.
Life is in all of my affairs.
Life is in all of my affairs.
I am it.
I am it.
I embrace it.
I embrace it.
I become it.
I become it.
Just the way that it is.
Just the way that it is.
And just the way that it's becoming.
Just the way that it's becoming.
Thank you, life.
Thank you, life.
And so it is.
So it is.
All right, join us in our closing song.
It's a new day. Today it's a new life. My way. The doubts, they are no match for me. I'll take my faith and fly because I know that I am creating my own destiny. The past is gone, it has no power here. I'm a mighty force in spirit's atmosphere. So I choose to grow, yes I choose to thrive. This longing will not be denied. It's a new day, today it's a new life. My way, the doubts they are no match for me. I'll take my faith and fly because I know that I am creating my own destiny. Right here, right now. Right here, right now, I claim that I There is nothing else that I need to know. So I affirm my worth, yes, I'm deserving of God's goodness abounding in love. It's a new day, today is a new life, my way. The doubts, they are no match for me. I'll take my faith and fly because I know that I am creating my own destiny. As I believe it, so it will be.